If you're in the trenches of starting a podcast and building it all yourself and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, a lot overwhelmed, this is the podcast for you. Hey, welcome to another episode of Abbey the Podcast Lady. It's just you and me hanging out this week on the show talking about solo podcasting. Now, I'm not just talking about like you sitting down and not having a guest on your show. I'm talking about you being everything for your show. The editor, the host, the marketer, the scheduler, everything. You're doing this on your own. And if you're overwhelmed, don't worry, you're not alone. Honestly, a lot of us have been there too. I'd say most podcasters have been there too. A lot of us are just doing it on their own. That's how I started out. When I started my first show, it was just me and a microphone and a Zoom PodTrack P4 recorder and a dream. I was handling absolutely everything, but that's the trial by fire I needed to run my production business successfully. Now, you might not be in the market to start a full-blown podcast production business, but you're still trying to navigate what it takes to be a solo podcaster. And that is what we are going to talk about today. We are going to set you up for success being a solo podcaster because a lot of people fail. And I don't want you to be one of those people that fail and become part of the statistics that we hear of everyone starts a podcast and then quits. Not you. Not you, because you're going to have a solo podcaster survival guide to go off of to set you up for success in the long term. That was a lot of S's. So what we are going to go through today on Abbey the Podcast Lady is why solo podcasting isn't a disadvantage. It might actually be an advantage for you. We're going to talk about simplifying your workflow. We're going to even give you some monetization tips for you and your team of one, or maybe team of two if your dog is sleeping next to you like mine is while you create your podcast. And we're going to be talking about how to grow your show without burning out. Hopefully. I mean, I can't make any promises. Your burnout level is different than everyone else's on the planet. We all experience burnout at some point, but we're going to do our best to avoid burning out if we can. So let's get into it. I want to start with the core truth of solo podcasting. I want you to reframe your brain and think about it this way. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things and do them intentionally with purpose. You got it? You don't need to do everything. You need to do the right things and do them intentionally with purpose. That is what it is all about. Don't do the things that are going to not move the needle in the right direction anyway. We're going to focus on doing things that are actually helpful for you in the long term so you don't feel extremely overwhelmed. So the first thing I want to do is do a little myth busting. We're going to harken back to the early 2000s. Remember the Mythbusters? So I want to clear one thing up. You do not need a team to run a successful podcast. Now you might be thinking, what? Abbey, you run a podcast production business. Your whole livelihood is based on being people's team for their successful podcast. Why are you telling me that I don't need that when that is what you sell? And here's the thing. Some people need it. Some people don't. That's just what it boils down to. It all kind of comes down to like, what are you actually interested in? Are you interested in just being the face of your podcast and the voice of your podcast and having the conversations with people and having what I call the fun part of having a podcast, which is talking to the camera with a microphone and having engaging conversations? Like, is that what you're in it for? Or do you actually get a little bit of enjoyment out of doing the editing and cleaning things up and scheduling out content and making social media elements and writing blogs and emails? Like, does that light any sort of fire inside of you? Because if it does, then you don't need a full-blown production team. You can do that yourself if you're getting joy from it. It's all about what you actually want to do and how you actually want to use your time when it comes to your podcast and how you're using your podcast. So just something to think about with that. You don't need a full-blown production team to have a successful show. It can just be you. If you have the capacity and the desire to take it on, you are more than fine doing a solo podcast and doing all of the work behind it as well. Just think about what is actually bringing you joy and what parts of the process that if you could outsource it, would you? That's when you would hire a podcast producer to come in and shake things up and help out a little bit. So just a little food for thought, a little myth busting to get the show started today. So I want to get into a workflow that is actually helpful and a workflow that works, for lack of a better term. So what does your current podcast production workflow look like? Are you setting up interviews with people? Are you recording your show on your own? And then what does it look like after you're done recording? So you have your finished audio or video file. Where does it go from there? Are you taking it into specific software? How many different softwares are you taking it into? I know personally, it depends on the show that I'm producing for someone, but like currently I'm recording in the Riverside online recording platform, but I touch things like Descript and ChatGPT and CapCut and sometimes Opus Clip, and I'm looking for B-roll video on Pixabay, and there's so many other softwares. Like I was doing my taxes recently and I'm like, wow, I pay for a lot of subscriptions to different places. But your workflow needs to make sense for you and work for you as well. There are so many AI tools these days to make podcasting so much easier. And you don't necessarily need to outsource tasks to different people. You can kind of outsource them to different robots or different subscription services based on what you're needing done. So that's definitely something to think about. Like I love Descript as a tool for chopping things up, and I think they make the best like AI clips, for lack of a better term. It's not AI, it's just chunks of like your show that's you talking, and then you can add captions to it. I think it's really easy. I think they just pull the best ones like for options. I don't think they have the cutest captions. I think actually CapCut has better captions for it. Like stylistically, I think they look better. You can get transcripts made from places like Riverside and Descript. There's different things you can do to outsource and make things easier. You just got to find the right tool for the job. So make a list of things that you would like to outsource and then try to find a tool that can do it for you instead of having to hire a full-blown person. Like you don't need to do everything manually when you're editing. Like there's ways around this. I also want you to think about your workflow from a place of how are you actually recording your content? Are you doing it on the fly? Like right now, I am in the middle of batching content for a couple weeks. So I just got done with a interview-based podcast where I found a guest on podmatch.com, which is another great tool, by the way, for finding guests. Sign up for Podmatch. So I just got done with that. Now I'm recording a couple of solo episodes, so I have them ready to go when I get a block of time that is good to go for editing on my calendar. I'll have these sitting there waiting for me to go, so I'm not panicking and going, oh my gosh, I need a podcast episode for tomorrow and I don't even have anything recorded. Like, no, batch your content, do it all in one fatal swoop. So you only have to get ready once, you only have to get on camera once, you only have to set everything up once. It's all just readily done for you. So then you're working smarter in your workflow that way. Batch your content. If you take one thing from this podcast, let it be to batch your content. And then another thing I want you to think about when it comes to your workflow is keeping things as simple as you can. The more cameras, the more lights, the more cables, the more that you have, the more complicated it is, and the more you're going to feel overwhelmed by it. Right now, my setup is my Rode PodMic USB. It just simply plugs right into my laptop. I do have an external camera that I'm using as a webcam. I'm using my Extra Muse gimbal camera that I got off the TikTok shop just for a little bit better quality than just the camera that's built into my MacBook Pro. But it's a super simple setup. Like it is just that. And then I have a green screen behind me and I'm not even using like an actual light that I would use for my clients. I'm just using a lamp where I took the lampshade off. Like it's ridiculous what I'm using as a setup, but it's simple and it's easy and I can put it up really quick. I can tear it down really quick. I don't feel overwhelmed by it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I had a recording with a client this week where it was 4 softbox lights, 3 XLR mics, my entire Rodecaster. I had 3 cameras set up. Like it's a lot, but that's the level of production quality that they're wanting from me. And so that's what I provide. But for my own self, like I just do what I can handle on my own, and USB mic, camera, laptop, lamp, ready to rock. It can be as simple as you need it to be and still be effective at the same time. So now that we've thought about our workflow and thought about things that we can take away from it or maybe even add to it to make our life easier, I want to talk about some monetization strategies for solo podcasting. This is a question I get all the time. It's usually like when people contact me and they're like, I want to start a podcast. And I'm like, great, what's your idea? They tell me their idea. And then the first question they ask is, how do I make money from it? It's the question everyone's asking. It's the tale as old as time in podcasting. I just want to touch on some monetization strategies that are easy and attainable, because I feel like everyone's like, oh, I need to get 1,000 downloads or 10,000 or whatever that threshold is to get the MeUndies ad. And that's really not that effective. And I've done episodes on that before. Go listen to my episode with Jeff Ravia from, I think it was last week, maybe it was a week before that, something like that. Jeff Ravia talking about live podcasting, because that is not a way to monetize. Okay, tangent over. What we are talking about is monetization strategies, simple monetization strategies for a solo podcaster. You're already doing it all. It is basically a full-time job just trying to keep the podcast going. Now you're thinking, how do I make money from this? So I just want you to know that you do not need a massive audience and you don't need to be burning the midnight oil to make money from your show. What you need is trust, relevance, and clarity. Those three things: trust, relevance, and clarity, and super serve your audience with that trust, relevance, and clarity. There's some super easy ways to go about that. Now, your podcast is building that trust for you. Your topics are relevant and you're being really clear about your goals, your expertise, your intentions, all that sort of stuff. Well, you can sneak in things like affiliate links, like, hey, the camera I'm using right now, the Extra Muse, I got an affiliate link for that on my TikTok shop. So when you're done listening to this podcast episode, go find me on TikTok and get yourself an Extra Muse camera if you like the quality that it's pumping out for my podcast and you're looking for a camera yourself. Awesome. Great. Affiliate link there. If you like the way my microphone sounds, I have an affiliate link for this Rode PodMic USB. It is on my website. It is on my link tree. Like, there's a bunch of different places that you can get it. I've actually made a pretty decent chunk of change from affiliate links, and I don't even like push them very hard. Like, I don't even think about it. I've just thrown the links in a couple places and it generates me a couple $100 every year. Now, that's not a lot. Barely covers one cell phone bill a month, but it's better than nothing. If I was pushing it harder, I'd probably get a lot more traction with it, but it's just an easy way. Like, hey, here are my affiliate links, throw them down in your YouTube notes, throw them in your show notes. It's an easy way to monetize your podcast because people are coming to you and they're like, well, if they like it, I probably will like it too. Maybe I'll buy it and check it out. Another easy way to generate some income while you're solo podcasting and trying to get everything done all at once is listener supported private feeds. So those are things like Patreon, or I think Buy Me Coffee is one of those as well, or there's a paywall on Apple Podcasts. It's those extra things where people can get early access or special shows. Set up a Patreon. Who knows? If people love you and trust you and they want to hear more from you and you're adding some value on that platform, they might throw you $5 a month. Heck, you might even be surprised and someone will throw you $50 a month. Like, set those things up. They're pretty easy to maintain. It's, yes, posting in another place, but you're already making the content anyway. So you can kind of just drag it over and put it on a place like Patreon and make a couple extra bucks that way. Super easy. And then a third one I want you to think about is strategic sponsorships. Now, this one is going to take a little bit more time. And I know that's not the point of this, is we're trying to cut back on the time we're spending. We're trying to make solo podcasting easy. But if you are building that really like tight audience and they really trust you and there's a brand that aligns with what you're trying to do and they believe in you as well, they might be willing to sponsor your show. So think about those brands that you're personally really aligned with and reach out to them and say, hey, I have this show. I think we're really aligned. I like what you stand for. Hopefully you like what I stand for. And maybe we can do some sort of strategic partnership on this for X amount of dollars, or maybe you're willing to trade product or willing to trade services. That does take more time. It takes more energy. It takes more emailing back and forth. It takes visiting them in person if they're local, but it's one that could potentially pay off in a big way. So just something to think about. And like we've talked about before, not all of this needs to get done right now. If it's not working for you, push it off your plate for now. You can always add it back later. What this is all about, we're just trying to survive and get you back to feeling good about making that solo podcast. Now, to kind of wrap things up here, or get close to wrapping things up, I want to talk about burnout. And in the podcasting industry, they've been calling this pod fade lately. And I know a lot of people are given the ick by that term. I think it makes sense. I understand why people are like, pod fade, let's stop using that. But also, like, who cares? So there are statistics about how people quit making their show after like episode 3 because it's too much work, especially when people start out solo and they don't have help to get everything done. They realize how much work goes into making a podcast. They give it 3 episodes and they're like, nah, I think that's enough. And then they get to episode 7 and they're like, oh, I made it this far, but oh God, I really had to power through. It just wasn't worth it. I'm quitting after episode 7. And then I think that next threshold's like episode 20. And everyone's like, okay, I did this for almost half a year. I can't do this anymore. And people quit. And that's the thing. And I want you to know that burning out happens. I burnt out on my own podcast, The Small Town Tourist, the show that I originally started podcasting with. There has not been a new episode of that in over a year at this point. And when there were episodes coming out, they were not coming out consistently in any way, shape, or form. The first year was really good. I was really dedicated to it. And then I just got too busy. I started my own business. I got busy with life and I burnt out on making The Small Town Tourist. Would I love to bring it back? Yes, eventually. That is the goal. That is not going to happen anytime soon. So I burnt out myself. I've been through podcast burnout. I know what goes into a show and you care so much, but you only have so many hours in a day and you're still trying to maintain some semblance of a life. Just know that burnout doesn't mean it's totally over. Take a break. Take a break. Put it on pause. End that season. Hey, that was the season of a podcast. I had fun. It was great. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I know what to do differently next time. And you can always come back and start again. There's no rules in podcasting. That's why I love this medium so much. There's no rules. There's no one here unless you have like a sponsor telling you like, I need this X amount of deliverables. But there's no one telling you, oh, yeah, well, I mean, you have to hit this many episodes. You have to hit this time slot. You have to do anything. No one is telling you that unless you have some sort of corporate overlord or a sponsor. Like, there's no rules. Do what is going to serve you. Do what is going to keep you sane and keep you from burning out. I always say consistency is the best thing to have in podcasting. When people ask me, like, how often should I put out episodes? As much as you feel that you can without burning out, without feeling overwhelmed. What can you maintain long term? Maybe that's only 1 episode a month. Maybe that's an episode every other week. Mine started as every other week. Abbey the Podcast Lady did this past, when did I start that? In July. I started doing every first and third Thursday of the month. And then I hit the winter months and I'm like, you know what? I could do an episode every week. And that's where I'm at right now. Consistency without burning out. There are no rules. Do what is going to work best for you. That is the most important part. So as we close out this episode of Abbey the Podcast Lady, if I could send you away from this with just one takeaway, I would say being a solo podcaster is not a weakness. It can actually be a superpower because the limited time you have, if you find the right things to spend your time and energy on, it can really pay off big time. I've watched it happen and I think that you got it in you. I truly do. If there's things that are not serving you right now in your workflow, in your post-production, in your like actual real-time production of it, get rid of it. You don't need it. You can do whatever you want. Podcasting has no rules. Do what is working. Don't do what is not working and just keep putting out your content, sharing your message with the world. That's what's most important. And do it in a way that makes sense for you and the time you have and the energy you have. And I want to see you succeed. I don't want to see you burn out. I want to see you keep going. I want to see you make a bajillion episodes and build a life doing this. Like that is what I want for everyone because I just think podcasting is the absolute best thing to do in the entire world. I want to thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me on Abbey the Podcast Lady. If you have questions about podcasting or maybe you're looking for a specific tool to help make your workflow go better, be faster, be more efficient, get some time back in your schedule, and you want some advice on that, I would love to point in the right direction. If you got specific questions, send them my way. Otherwise, we will hang out again next week here on your favorite listening app where you're checking out Abbey the Podcast Lady. I will see you then.